Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 8 at Keeneland on opening day Friday. Key prep for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. This race is the Grade 2 $350,000 Jessamine, mile and a 16th on the turf. Let's take a look at this field. Overflow field for the Jessamine. The 13 through 16 entered on the also eligible list. Wide open race, Mike. The 3 Delight scored last time out at Delaware for Jonathan Thomas as an odds-on favorite. Looked good in that race, taking a big step up at 4-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, I mean, she a lukewarm favorite on the morning line, Dan. I kind of think that she should be the favorite, though, and I do think she's the horse to beat in here as far as the horses in the main body of the race go anyway. I realize it took her, 3 starts to break her maiden, and when she did it, it was at Delaware at 1-5, but she had run really well in her first 2 starts, even though she didn't win those races.
Big field, several stretch out sprinters. I would expect a hot pace. Timeform US believes there'll be a hot pace. Here's the pace projector for the Jessamine. Red bar, fast pace. They think Bling, stretching out from a 5.5 furlong maiden win at Ellis Park. She pressed a moderate pace that day, can get to the front. Recognized has shown speed on turf around 2 turns, however, in front in the PG Johnson last time out before finishing an okay third. I think Recognized is going to go out there. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these horses like Promise of Hope, the 4, tries to get very forward.
Yeah, I can see a bunch of horses trying to get forward in here. And as you've already pointed out, there are a bunch of horses just stretching out in this race. So I do think this pace could get fast. I don't really have any idea, Dan, who's going to be out there on the early lead in this race. Maybe it'll be Bling. She just looked really handy to me in her first turf start. Then she didn't look like a true blazer.
A horse that would benefit from a fast pace, according to Timeform US, and I concur, is the number 1. That's Sabalenka. Jose Ortiz takes them out, and she figured to gain a ton of fitness from her second lifetime start, a mile race over the demanding European-type turf course at Kentucky Downs. Sabalenka came from out of it that day. I thought she was very game to win as the favorite. Does she have to improve? Yes, but that's not out of the question at all for lightly raced horses this time of year.
Yeah, there's a bunch of horses that could improve in here. She's definitely one of those. I thought she ran fine last time, really game to prevail. Again, another one of those horses that, for me personally is just really hard to evaluate. They're not only being, taking place at Kentucky Downs, where I find hard to believe anything that happens, but second, third, and fourth finishers were all first-time starters. This horse did get it done. In her defense, though, she did run pretty well in her career debut also at Colonial Downs.
The 2 is CC Cruise Control, who was beaten last time out at Kentucky Downs by Towhead, who drew a tough outside post in this race. It was a very yielding turf course, however. She didn't have to like it. What concerned me was, boy, it looked like she was beat turning into the long straight, and somehow, some way, she still finished third. I guess I'll give her some credit for that, but where was everybody else?
Yeah, it was one of those races, too, where it just felt like you didn't want to be behind in that race. You wanted to be up close. The 1, 2, 3 finishers were all right up there all the way around the track, and nobody could really make an impact behind them on a day where the course was super yielding. It was pouring during the running of that race. I would have no argument with anybody that told me they don't care about that race at Kentucky Downs. I'll judge her off of the only other turf start, and in that race at Ellis Park, she looked really good breaking her maiden.
Very visually impressive, only with a 56 buyer, but again, she has a lot of upside potential and might get the right setup. Corey Lannery from Post 2 figures to save some ground. The 3 is Delight. Let's watch Delight's maiden win, third time out for trainer Jonathan Thomas. They found a great spot. She was 1-5 in this race at Delaware. She sat just off the leader, who's a sharp horse, came back to win a minor race. Sat off moderate fractions, goes right by in the stretch. Likeable effort, respectable buyer, speed figure, lots of upside and pedigree.
Exactly. Set a good trip in this race and is just much the best at the end. These 2 horses put distance on the rest of these fillies. And again, Dan, this horse, her first 2 starts were really good. I mean, they debuted her sprinting here in the spring, and she lost all chance at the start in there. Actually ran pretty well just to be third far back. And then she ran a terrific race, I thought, at Saratoga, while a little bit headstrong and caught on the outside all the way. The 1-2 finishers in that race, though, they're both really good.
The 4 Promise of Hope was Van Doff in the Adirondack, second lifetime star. Tom Amos tried her on turf last time out at Kentucky Downs, going 6.5. I thought all in all the trip was there. She was able to save ground in the pocket, but she stayed on nicely to finish third. And with this pedigree, I have no worries about her stretching out to a mile and a 16th. And I think her tactical speed is going to place her in a good position going into the first turn.
I agree with all that stuff. And I do think, when I looked at the race, I thought that maybe she was, just a little bit of a wild card in here. And then I looked at the morning line and saw her at 6-1. And that's not the kind of price I'd be looking to take on her.
Blind Spot's the number 5. If you believe good synthetic form will translate to turf, here's Blind Spot's win in the Our Dear Peg over the Tapeta surface at Gulfstream, going a 2-turn mile and 70 yards. And she was kind of hung outside, Mike. The pace was not fast at all. She's better than these horses in the final 16th of a mile.
Yeah, I thought she ran pretty well in here, actually. With the trip, factored in, and I know it's, pretty desperate at the end. To me, it always looked like she was going to win that race, and I like the stride that she put on display there. I don't love her pedigree necessarily, Dan, so I wonder if she really has it in her to take a big enough step forward against this kind of field. But to me, she's the kind of horse who I could keep an open mind about at a big price.
Happy Gal's the number 6. I believe she's Joel Rosario's second call. If somehow the 15 Play the Music gets into the race, Happy Gal will have a jockey change. Second last time out in a restricted allowance, finishing ahead of Promise of Hope. Her prior race going 5/8 of a mile at Del Mar was a pretty game pace pressing performance. Maybe this one shows some stretch out speed for Doug O'Neill.
I think she is going to show some stretch out speed here. They didn't necessarily have that speed with her last time, and she caused a little bit of trouble in the stretch there, but did take a little bit of a step forward in that spot. I think she has to improve again.
Bling made her turf debut a winning one at Ellis Park, going 5.5 furlongs. She bred for the surface by American Pharaoh. Let's watch this effort for Bling, who just set off a nice, easy pace, takes over the lead, turning into the stretch, and they never threaten her after that. It's a very visually impressive performance off of a good trip. There's some distance in the family. The dam was a stakes winner on dirt at a mile. Third dam, one of your favorites, Mike, Alabama winner Yanks Music.
Yeah, this is a really nice female family. This is a very pleasing debut, Dan. She had, again, I just thought she had handy speed sitting outside the leaders. You could see her sort of make her move around the turn. And I just really liked the way she finished that race off. She was never even close to being all in that race. She has plenty of pedigree to stretch out, a lot to like here.
Dulcia, the number 8, debut winner for Joe Sharp at Kentucky Downs, going 3/4 of a mile. Showed fine speed in that race. Wouldn't be surprised at all if she's up close to the pace. The 6th place finisher of that race came back to win one of those auction maidens on dirt at Churchill with a 64 buyer. So a solid enough group.
Yeah, exactly. Another horse who just feels like she has a lot to prove here, but it's hard to knock what she did first time out. I thought she looked really good winning. It was another race at Kentucky Downs where first-time starters were 1, 2, 3 in that race, but this horse was up on the pace. The horses that ran second and third came from off it.
New York bred number 9, Recognize, was a winner of her turf debut, going 2 turns at Saratoga, race in which she just completely controlled the pace throughout. They tried her against open foes in this race. The PG Johnson over a turf course with a little bit more give in it. She again was able to make a pretty easy early lead, and she runs third to a nice filly. The winner came back to run third in the very boggy Miss Griot last week with a 74 buyer.
Yeah, that winner be your best, I think, is probably going to be pretty tough at the Breeders' Cup. She looks like a really talented filly. Recognize, I don't know, just no match for that horse after cutting the pace in this race, and she can't hold on for a second. You see her go to her wrong lead there and get nailed. I don't know, Dan. I thought she just ran okay last time, and I know that she won her turf debut when they stretched her out, but she just totally took advantage there to me.
My concern is she's shown sort of middle distance speed. While there are some sprint speeds in here, maybe she's not fast enough to get to the early lead. I think the fractions will be hotter than they were in the PG Johnson, and certainly in the maiden win 2 starts back. If you're looking for some turf pedigree, why not the 10? Stephanie's Charm, who ran second in the Our Dear Peg, the race we just saw before with Blind Spot. This one's by Distorted Humor, 13% winners, a little bit above industry average with turf routers. The second dam, Corazona, was a grade 1 turf winner going long. Maybe this one will take a slight step forward on the grass and put her in the mix.
Yeah, I suppose that's possible because she is bred for it. Out of that Our Dear Peg, I preferred the winner, but this horse probably has the better pedigree.
Then the 11, Knock Your Socks Off, was a very well-bet debut winner for an extremely good barn in Chris Block down at Colonial Downs. Really good performance that day, coming from off of the pace. And I just think In her last race, several things worked against her. The obvious excuses, the yielding ground. But I think Julien Leparoux realized there's not a lot of pace in here. I got to get her close. And he kind of rushed her up into it. And I think the move was just a little bit too early over that very demanding course.
That's exactly how I looked at it, Dan. It's that race that we were talking about earlier where the 1, 2, 3 finishers were all right up on the pace the entire way. This filly was last early in there. And I think you're right. I think Leparoux just decided I can't just sit back here. He actually made a pretty big run all the way around that long turn at Kentucky Downs and loomed and then totally flattened out through the stretch. Her debut, she did have a contested pace in front of her that day, but she also really ran and she settled that race quickly once she took over in the stretch.
Number 12 is Towhead, and Towhead is still a maiden, although she won a race that was eventually declared a no contest at Saratoga. This is a tough head bob to lose last time. This is the race we were talking about over the very yielding ground. The juvenile fillies at Kentucky Downs. Knock Your Socks Off is on the outside. CC Cruise Control is down on the rail. And we saw the mid-race bid from Knock Your Socks Off. Towhead eventually gets to the lead and somehow just drops a nose decision to Chop Chop, who will try dirt later on in the Alcibiades.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough beat here. She's very game. This is a long stretch duel over a very boggy turf course, and she's just going to miss at the end. It's another good performance, though, Dan. She had run well at Saratoga in the race that was declared a no contest, although that race gets hard to evaluate when you realize that half the field was pulled up on the backstretch. Since then, she's run fine as well. I don't really have any real knocks on her, but she's got post 12. Facing some, up and coming fillies on the grass in here, and she's not going to be a great price.
The 13 through 16 are on the also eligible list. Tax Implications was a likable debut winner at Monmouth for Chad Brown. 4-1 on the morning line if she gets in. It is a step up in class, and if she does gets in, what a tough post.
Yeah, she'll have a tough post to overcome, but I think she might be pretty tough if she gets in here based on that debut.
I liked how Play the Music won her debut at Kentucky Downs, albeit with a low buyer speed figure. She'll need several scratches in order to play. Top pick time for the Jessamine. Key Prep, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Mike, Knock Your Socks Off is going to be a good price in this race. Should get the right scenario. And again, I think gained a lot of fitness last time out at Kentucky Downs. And just a race where I think her running style wasn't helped by the way the race shaped up.
Yeah, I thought she had plenty of excuses last time. I thought her career debut was a pretty good effort, and she showed that she can sit off of a pace and make a big run, which will probably come into play here. At the price, the morning line price, I just had to put her on top. I think Delight's the horse to beat. I put her second.
Bling, I think you described her maiden win perfectly and pleasing. And I think she has a tactical speed, not a speed crazy horse where if she makes the lead, fine. If not, maybe Rafael Bejarano will find 1 or 2 to track. Curious to see what she get. I think she's bred to stretch out a little bit. 11-3, 7-12 for Mike, 7-12, 6-4 for me. It's the Jessamine. Great betting race on a great betting card. 3 graded stakes at Keeneland on opening day Friday. Good luck.